So, okay, it's recording now. Morning, everybody. First of all, approval of previous minutes. Did everyone have an opportunity to look at those minutes?
Second.
So there was a motion from
Me.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. First up on the agenda is fence permit 23-102918 for 1000 West Shore Drive. Installing 50-foot, 4-foot tall vinyl fence. So take it. Anybody here click on that? No, done. Okay. Twice in a row. Been told them about that too.
Take a look again. That's the next meeting, right?
Oh, we already do. We already do. Let's add to that. Okay, the next case is building permit 23-103314 for 1110 East Shore Drive Culver. Building permit request to demolish current accessory structure and build a new structure that is 240 square feet. So got some pictures of that here. Jim, you want to speak on that?
I have the masters of I guess. Pretty, because it shows a little different. Which this goes more with my measurements.
So it's more than 10 feet
Yeah.
from the side yard
South side.
along the gully.
Yeah, yeah. But it's actually on
Big
the other
deep
side of
gully.
that.
So. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Will that be located at the same place that other small structures that right on top?
It's just built, right, it's torn down and actually built in this.
How
exact same-
tall will that be?
It'll be probably just over 11 foot,
Oh.
under 12. You got, you keep his golf cart in there. Now I got 2 golf carts.
Oh,
I just went to bigger for a
Moving up. Widen it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seventeen. Hey.
Okay. Any more questions from anybody?
Not for me.
If I go down the finding of facts sheet that was attached to that. For you all. I'll read them. You don't have to give me your response to this, but if you have a disagree, you need to vote no. So number 1 is the approval will be not injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Number 2 is the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say variance, permit will not affect in a substantially adverse manner. And finally, the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan. Page 14, you need to know, add the letter. So I'd ask everyone to take a vote for a motion and start with to approve building permit 23-103314.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is it opposed? No. Okay, and we'll approve that and that'll get a permit system. Maybe yet today or not today, it'll be all next week. Okay. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Now the big one.
Yeah. Take care.
Take care, Jim.
Everything's okay.
Yeah. Not a good call to get.
No, no, it's not. No, it's not. Okay.
Everybody's okay?
Yeah, it was just, my wife was turning left on 30 and kid was driving, west on 30 and apparently didn't see the red light or whatever, or the car in the middle of the road. And so just bumped into her, got her pretty good, but nothing major. So for accidents on 30.
Good.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is case number BP 23 103 18-710 Tamarack, Culver, Indiana, Beachview Properties LLC. The executive storage units for commercial use. So we'll open that up for discussion. First of all, someone want to explain the project for us and go over it?
Happy to. So this is a project, right here on Tamarack that we've kind of been talking about for a while and now getting through the process of getting going on everything. We have our engineer here, Tom Hardy, who can kind of describe the engineering and where things stand in terms of applications with the state, those types of issues. But the overall project is, as you can see, 7 buildings that are going to be used as executive storage facilities for individuals to store anything from RVs down to boats or whatever they might have that they don't want to have at their lake house and store in their garage, and then they have to park in the driveway or park on the street. This way they'll be able to have this area to take all that stuff to, and then be able to park inside their garages. Pretty excited about it. We've got several people that are already lined up and are designing their units to adjust certain things out. Looks like we're gonna end up with 21 total units. Some people are taking half of a building as opposed to a quarter of it. Others are gonna take a third. And so it looks like as it lays out, it's gonna be 21 units. With the unit that we're applying for a building permit now being all one unit is gonna be maintained by the property owner. And so that'll still be in the name of a Collins company. So that's the permit we're here asking for today. And in terms of all the engineering and design, Tom can answer those questions. And I know he's got a lot of prints to add if you have questions about different things, but I see there's more. So that's an older design, but I think some of the lower next slides, slide 8 or 9 down there probably has more.
I don't know if you can see these very well on here. And I have a whole big folder full of things. So if there's something specific you want up here, I'll be able to dig it out.
Okay, sounds good.
This is pretty well the same design as you had presented.
So
Correct. The only things that have really changed in terms of layout and stuff is where the water retention areas are, and the layouts in the building are all exactly the same.
are any of these documents here? I know it's a long list.
I know Tom's got them printed out too, if that helps.
It will.
We had to adjust a few things in terms of water retention areas and things like that. But in terms of the layout of the buildings and the intent behind the use and all that is still the same.
Just more recent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been working with Midwest Integrated. Scott's been critiquing everything and we've been making changes as he's requested. Latest change, the outlet of the big storm basin is 4-inch now. And that just got finalized yesterday. But the major utilities for this, the water and the sewer, are tied in with that Dunes project. And the submittal to the state for the water and sewer will go with the Dunes project, not this project. And we've, since the beginning, we've really increased the size of the basin. I think my boss, Chris, working with Scott, have kind of finalized everything on the stormwater.
Yeah, that was my big concern, was
having another Maple Ridge times 2 or 2.0, so.
Sure. Fortunately, here with this project, we're only dealing with our water as opposed to,
I know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
once you get bit once.
Right. yeah.
Where is this project located exactly?
It's gonna be straight south of the
Cemetery,
cemetery.
Cemetery,
on-
okay.
where the old Dew Jays building was.
Or do gate? Yeah.
Where they used to have fruit.
Yep.
We're gonna take that whole field.
Well, just the corner section there, there's field behind it, so there's tillable to the south of it. But this is just the 4 acres right there on the corner. And the building that the permit is filed for is the one that's all the way to the right or all the way to the east on the property.
Are those pine trees just south of that? Is that hers or yours?
The-
That border, that,
Yeah, it kind of skirts both lines,
Does
but
it?
the intent is to leave as much of that as possible. 'cause
Okay.
it's-
that was,
Yeah, if it doesn't stay, it'll be replaced.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so, now as far as the western portion where the water retention area is, I don't think we'll have any trees or anything along there just to maintain that,
right.
the capacity there. But, being respectful of that area to the east, the cutout, you know, the residential person there, we're gonna maintain that screen. If it's not, if something has to come down as part of construction, it'll be replaced with some type of white fir or something that's quick growing and sound proofing and those types of things.
How is that zoned right now?
I believe it's C2 and it's staying C2 when it was annexed in at C2.
C2 years ago, which never became. Oh,
Are you building up on that retention? Are you building up that south side on that bank?
We're blending into it, but no, it's from the existing grade, it should fall down into the basin.
Okay. I know that's pretty pitched going back to that south. It wants to make its way towards the river. That's the only.
And that's
But if
part
it's
of the
not-
natural flow of it. That's the natural low
That is.
spot on the property.
What is the depth of those retention?
It's only about 3 or 4 feet.
Thank you.
The water and sewer, that's for a kitchenette?
Yeah, so it's gonna have we'll have a full bath, a full shower, so that way if any of the owners can, you know, wash their RV or whatever it might be, wash a boat, whatever, then they can go in and take a shower before they get back in their car and drive back to the,
Would you say kitchenette?
yeah. So it's got a little bit of a refrigerator area, so if they have pops or whatever they want to store there, they can. If there's no living quarters at all, there's no bedrooms, there's no egress windows, there's no.
This area.
But you have no, I mean, you don't have a cooking area or whatever.
There's a sink, there's no stove, there's no,
That's what
anything like
I
that,
mean,
yeah.
once we get into that point.
There's
it
no
just don't
oven
be-
installed or anything like that.
There's a drawing somewhere, but I don't know which one. It's a lot to go through.
Yeah. So it's kind of like if someone wanted
It's gonna
a,
be wicked out that way.
kitchenette area to wash your hands, wash your, you know, if you didn't want to take a shower, or if you wanted to have a pot of coffee there or something
be
while
the
you were doing
print?
something.
So no living where people wouldn't be staying there over weekends and things like that.
Correct. It's restricted from having any of that. So you can't reside there, you can't,
That was a big, I say,
Yeah,
concern
this one.
about the public.
yeah,
And,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and a little bit of a change to it. So as we got into the process of how we were going to allow these units to be used, so by tenants or, we found that a lot of the people just wanted to be able to buy it. So they wanted to own it as opposed to rent it. And so, what we're doing is going through and creating a condominium association to allow them to buy them as condos. But all those condos, the ownership restrictions will be recorded. So this will be a little bit stronger too. It'll be a restriction that they can't stay in it overnight, and that's a recorded document. So it's not something that's part of a lease that can be changed over time.
What happens
So-
if they do?
Well, the homeowners association then can fine them and put a lien on their property if they violate those terms. And then that lien can be foreclosed. So
What was
That's
the
all.
decision to classify them as condominiums as opposed to?
as opposed to like parcelizing it and having
Yes.
individual parcels. We don't have anybody that wants to buy, you know, the parcel line would go through a building. So The only single owner building is the one that's all the way to the east. All the others are gonna be cut up into individual units. So a person will have half of a building or a third of a building or a quarter of a building. The only entity that'll have a whole building is the owner of the entire project, which is the one all the way to the east.
Which is next to Lincoln Street, where you're talking there.
Yes, yeah.
How tall would these buildings be?
I believe they're 33 feet at the cupolas.
33 feet?
Yeah,
The kind of print up that had Steve, you had a print up that had the elevation of them.
Which one was it?
It's 33 feet.
Infrastructure?
The ordinance, it doesn't matter.
Site plan, print,
Yeah.
print. I think that's one.
Yeah, that might be, other than that,
33 feet.
Right. It's under C2,
Grading.
under C2, so with height restriction.
It's gotta be one of these.
yeah,
When you start from the
I'll
top.
try the top one. And I don't know if that's just the site plan.
That one.
Yeah, it meets the zoning
This
requirement.
is the one that's up.
This has the bay height on it.
There you go. It's
Okay.
It's 28.
What about the,
28, then it goes to the cupolas. So
what's upstairs there from the,
it's open air, and then above the bathroom area is a loft area for storage of facilities, but it's not walled off. It's just gotta have a rail around the outside of it. So it's open air to the whole garage.
Crazy question, but these aren't cooled units.
Yeah, they're heated and cooled. So it's acclimated for someone to store something over winter or anything like that. It's gonna be,
Well, heated, I expect. Yeah.
Or he didn't cool, somebody has a nice car.
Yeah.
yeah, so then in summer, it's not too
So
hot.
you're not getting the humidity.
Right. And if you, there's a little bit of a design in some of the major metropolitan areas that have facilities like this, where the people kind of take these and turn them into man cave type areas where they really decorate them out. Not that they spend time there, but they've got this $400,000 car, and then they decorate around in the same style of the car. And so it could end up being some very attractive units, and they may have, $1.5 million Provost RVs in there. I mean, these are the types of things that we foresee being tenants of the facilities.
man cave.
Man cave that they can't just hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
well,
just out of curiosity, the large overhead doors then will be like 14 foot.
correct, yeah. So I think there's, the original design was for each bay to have a large overhead and a regular 8-foot overhead and the door in between. So you can see they'd be cut up into 4s.
See, that's where my original question was coming from when I asked about the condominium, because if they were just simply storage,
It's the definition of condominium.
it is a definition of it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's, as I learned.
I know where you're going, but it's,
Yeah.
But you said
I
specific.
struggled with it too.
No, but
until
there's specific clauses within it that restrict the living.
Everything that was really important to the BZA will be included in the formation documents for the condominium. And those are recorded as controlling on the property, and those can't be changed without an application to change them, which would obviously spur requirement for the BZA and everybody to be involved. So, and it gives you a little bit, as you know, anybody who lives in an HOA, gives you a little bit stronger control over, there is the ability in a tenancy relationship where you can just evict someone. So that's a lot of power, but in a HOA type situation, there's still liens and fines and things that can be put in place. And you're gonna have other people out there that aren't gonna allow a whole lot of monkey business going on. If you've got $5 million or $500,000 worth of stuff stored in the unit and the guy next to you decides he wants to barbecue, that's gonna be shut down pretty quick. Wait a second,
Right.
you're not gonna light a fire next to my $1 million.
Is, all the authority though is gonna be on you. There's no authority as far as the town having anything to do with making sure all this is controlled.
No, the town doesn't have any, the town doesn't have any responsibility, nor do I think it really has any ability to oversee. It's not a, code enforcement type issue. It's gonna be the HOA for sure that, and again, Alan and Chris, through their entity, are gonna maintain one of the buildings, and I don't foresee them ever selling that or getting rid of that. That's gonna be something that they have 18 grandkids and whatever, they're gonna be in a house on the lake, they're gonna be here,
So it'd
so.
be pretty much I mean, if there is a wild party or something held in there and the police are called, as far as for the town's gonna have to be monitoring as well. So it's gonna be another responsibility toward the town.
In generalized criminal behavior, I guess, yeah, that would
Yeah.
be, but in terms
And
of.
I'm
if
just wondering
someone
if
were
it's gonna
having
be
a-
reported to you.
It won't extend our patrol area, but it will draw some attention to that patrol area.
Yeah.
Just in mind.
It's gated anyway, right?
And that's my only
Correct.
concern.
Yeah.
So it's gonna, it also kind of for those who maybe don't know, I know you may not have been aware when we were in the BZA process, but yeah, so it is gated entrance. The gates will be open all day to allow for any emergency vehicles that needed access to it if anything came up. And in the evenings, it'll be closed. The unit owners will have a key fob entry that I think it's up to, it's like a quarter of a mile or something. They can push the key fob if they come in at 11 o'clock at night or something, so that they can store the RV there and then go to the house or something like that. And then there will be access. There's special types of access on the gates where they can be accessed from emergency personnel.
Okay. Like a.
Well, it's, yeah, exactly. So there's 1,001 different types of things, but it could be.
Culver's registered with Knoxbox, so
Okay, yeah, so that might be a good one. to
that
use.
might be a good one.
There's things where you can break glass and push a button in it,
Oh,
certain
okay.
types of things, pull a lever or something. What we didn't want to have it be related to a key fob that you give the chief of police or something, and then something happens, it's like, oh, where's that key fob? I can't remember. It's been 6 years ago that they gave it to me or something. So,
I think commercial requires Knoxbox or something.
Yeah, you have to
We
have,
have,
you have to have
I know.
it's Knoxbox in our ordinances.
okay, yeah,
The
so that'll be part of the
So, yeah, we'd actually put.
process.
It's separated.
Not to bring up.
There, yeah, so it'll have a wall that extends all the way down. And then the units are separated.
From the top
Yeah, all the way, yeah. So all the way,
all the way across.
yeah.
So one door
And 2 garage doors,
or two garage doors in one unit.
correct, yeah,
Okay. And then those will be separated by walls.
right.
So,
And the upstairs that have nothing in it but open space for storage.
Right, yep. And it doesn't extend the whole square footage of the unit. It's just a small area above where the bathroom and stuff is. That's a lofted area. It's a small footprint to put stuff up off the ground that you might not want. So it could be, inflatables for the lake or boats, inner tubes and those types of things, to store up there and get out of the way.
so I have,
Run that up and so we can see
The
this.
side view.
Yeah.
So you can see that it's all quarter stone all the way around.
And that part on the top is where the,
The cupola is all the way at the top. A horse barn looking design. That'll be real attractive. And then there's gonna be all along the outside, along east shore is gonna have a sidewalk or west shore, whichever one that is.
West.
so the
West shore.
storage area will be up in here you're talking about.
No, that's open air. So the storage facility, I don't know if I don't have mine. Layout, we don't have a layout.
Buildings.
And this is the ground
The road.
level.
Yeah, so the ground level is
Mhm.
right.
One of them's ours, one of them's
5 foot
county.
Concrete slab, that's the
One of them's
ground.
ours, one of them's
Here?
county.
No, up
West
above,
Shore.
right there.
West
Yeah.
Shore's ours.
So the
County's
bottom
ours.
part is
Or
just
Tamarac's
measurements.
theirs.
Oh,
So
But there's gonna be
it'll be on like the left-hand side of the building. That's maybe
Yeah,
the total
I think
lofted
there's
square
an outlet.
footage is gonna be
even on. West Shore.
400 square feet or something. I mean, it's a small little lofted area
right in here.
on the far left side of it, on the back of the unit. Yeah. Okay, yeah, here we go. Thank you. So there's a stairwell up. Comes up here and the lofted area is just over the bathroom area in the back. It's pretty small.
That can be access for everybody.
Just the unit owner.
Just the unit.
No, so it's inside the unit. Yeah, so the stairwell will just go up
so
inside.
if you break these down to 4 units, they'll have 4 bathrooms each.
Yeah, the 4 bathrooms. This is the same, just without the red drawing on there. So the loft is just over this area. The bathrooms. So,
My questions, I think to me, you addressed the safety part. Impervious, pervious surfaces, percentages.
Yeah. One. Yeah, we had, total new hard surface, 92,000 square feet, the remaining grass is 83,000, so 40% green and, or 47% green, 40% was required.
For stormwater. So the drawing's got the retention ponds on it, retention pond in the area.
So you're
It's in this drawing, I guess it's up in here. So can you tell me how the stormwater is gonna work so we don't end up with any runoff into the lake?
On to the north, West Shore Drive, that's where the stormwater will start from, so there's not that very much to the north, no other properties or anything draining across West Shore. And it'll drain across the property by gravity to that big south detention basin.
there's a small amount over to the east.
To the east, that basin, it's got an overflow where, but it doesn't have a piped outlet. And the water should soak in that no more than.
No, it's the West Shore right up here.
Are you taking the water from the
This is
east?
actually the west.
No, that's water.
You're going,
Just there's an overflow in that basin.
That's what you're-
Is it a big pond?
Right here.
Hopefully it never
Be on here.
reached the west.
Itself has an overflow. Hang on a second.
Those ponds have weird.
Chester, Barry, you guys have additional questions?
He's trying to figure out which way the map's turned.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, can you continue?
Both basins have a weird overflow at the 100-year, basically. And if the east one would ever overflow, it would go down the swale and reach the big basin.
that's what I was wondering on that.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're happy with those calculations now, or?
So this is my comment to the stormwater plan. So the east basin that's along Lincoln Street does not have a piped outlet. So the original plan did not have an overflow weir. So our first set of comments back to Tom and his team was they needed to have an overflow there. They're making a large assumption on what can infiltrate into the ground. And that assumption is based on the NRCS web soil survey, which looks at generally the whole area. Okay, and then it's assumptions based on soil classification. There hasn't been any specific geotechnical investigation of this site. Was this a site that has been developed previously, or is it virgin ground?
It had a building on it,
Okay, so.
a small building
And
on
they
it.
also dumped on it.
Yeah, so we have no idea what the soil conditions are today. We know what the web soil survey says, but we don't know what it is today. So infiltration may or may not be what the soil classification is. That's a concern with an unpiped pond. If that doesn't infiltrate the way they think, it will overflow, or it does freeze up here. So, in February of the year, we get a lot of groundwater that comes up. We'll get groundwater that holds, and then it will freeze. The ground will freeze and water will sit on top of that. Now, they have added a swale to bring it down to the other pond area. So that kind of covers the east area. The southern, we'll call it southwest area, has been enlarged from the original design. It appears that grading kind of takes everything into account. They're using the swale areas between buildings on the south side of the property to get it to that detention area. And they're also using some infiltration assumptions as far as their outflow goes. On their pre-design calculations, this site yielded almost zero runoff based upon soil classification. So nothing came off of the site. So per the county drainage ordinance, it would be really hard to develop this site if you kept a strict line on that, because it doesn't discharge very much at all today. So in order for you to develop it, it has to discharge what it does today after development as well. And that's where your pond sizing comes in. They've done a fairly good job, in my estimation, of what they've done to try to meet that. One of the issues we had, we looked at this, was they wanted a 1.5 inch orifice plate on their 10-inch outfall pipe. That's what they needed to have to be able to meet pre-development standard. The problem with a 1.5 inch orifice is that's
one leaf, it's dead.
that big. It's gonna get clogged pretty quickly. And if there's nobody that is maintaining that, I mean, you cut the grass, you're gonna clog it, right? So our recommendation was what we see in a lot of other communities or in a lot of other areas of development is you may have that low water 1.5, but you've got something a little higher that's larger, or you can't put anything smaller than a 4-inch orifice in. So I spoke with Bob and I said, that's what I would suggest, put a 4-inch in, and then what gets out, you just kind of tolerate it. There's no homes to the south to worry about. There is a home to the southeast. Grade appears, from what I can tell, I drove by the site before the meeting, grade appears that water is not going to impact them. Even if it does happen to back up, it's not going to go that way. It's going to go towards the farm field. Now, you may have a complaint from a owner to the south that they're seeing more water than what they saw before in their crop ground. You may not.
Is it gonna sheet out across that crop ground, or is it just gonna be contained to the ditch?
If it
Roadside.
follows their grading, it should get to the roadside ditch on Tamarack and follow that. And now, if there's a large amount of water, it's gonna go where it's gonna fill up and go out. One other issue that we have is typically when you do a design like this, you have standards you gotta follow, and what they followed was the 100-year 24-hour storm for their pre-event. And they used a 100-year 48-hour storm for their post-event. The issue is the critical storm is probably gonna be a 2 or 3 hour event. So that's gonna dump a ton of water right now. I mean, in a hurry. It will overwhelm these ponds. We all know that happens. And that's why you put the emergency weirs in. But I haven't seen anything where that analysis was done to make sure their weirs are large enough to, when that happens, that it'll dump out the weir and not break out somewhere else. So their established 100-year elevation is based off of a longer duration storm instead of that critical storm. So that's another concern that I have that I haven't seen there. I think I mentioned that in the letter I sent to you. So, you know, our recommendation is if you choose to approve that, if the detention system, or I'm sorry, the retention system doesn't function adequately, there be some language or something that says it has to be rectified at that point at the owner's cost.
Yeah.
That would be our recommendation.
Understand under our
Are you
ordinance,
willing to comply with that?
Well, that's,
I can have Chris send you calculations and resize that weir.
Well, he sent me a new thing yesterday that I haven't had a chance to look at. And I mean, the weir may be capable, but they're, you know, typically you will run a series of duration storms to see which one produces the most rainfall and the most runoff at that given time. And only thing we've seen is a 24-hour and a 48-hour, not those small duration storms that usually produce the most runoff in the most amount of time. That's a concern that we have as far as the overflow goes.
well, I'm understanding that then our ordinances actually come back. I mean, as far as after development, I know we look at the detention pond, retention ponds, everything else, but sometimes under these issues, just like what you're saying, comes a time where the water does come from your property onto somebody else's, you know, the ordinances that you have to restrict that. And you'd be responsible, as you said, under your cost to fix that problem. And I know under ordinances, I mean, Steve, you probably know a little bit more about that as far as being going through the ordinance and stuff, but as far as actually water retention to your property is a big issue, and I know we've addressed it prior times to some of the L1 properties, things like that, where we have actually runoff from that property causing even damage to other properties, but I know it's always had to come back to the owner.
Yeah.
From where the water comes.
Well, there's obviously several, methods to be able to control some of those, unique types of, rainfall situations. And I don't think that there would be a question at all with the developers, willingness to, evaluate a certain situation if it comes up. If we have a certain type of astronomically unique type of rain system that happens, and you say, well, see, here it is, happens, and say, well, this is the unique, unforeseen, unknowable type of event, then maybe that would, you get some pushback on that. But if there was certainly ever that it came up as like, this is a problem that's not only happened once, but 2-3 times in the summer or something, certainly to look at it. I would say between now and then, if it's approved, we'll make sure that we build it to its, within the requirements of depth and those types of things, but to its maximum ability to hold as much as possible. To the far side of saying, if we have to put some type of underground storage to be able to handle a little bit extra, I know that that's an option as well, like we did in Maple Ridge. So
Right, and I mean, this is again, I mean, bit once, not twice,
Mhm.
with Middle Bridge, and we had the problem between the rigging
right,
and,
Well, that,
and the Maple Ridge. At the time the Maple Ridge was built, we had standards set in place, but
right.
with the riggings, we didn't at the time those were built, so we had.
yeah, we, the town just calculated the acreage. We didn't consider, just like you guys, we didn't consider everything that was going to it.
Right.
So it bit all of us, but
And I
that's
would
been
say that-
rectified.
I would say that I would put that as evidence of the developer's willingness to do what's required in order to make sure that there's not extensive amount of water that's damaging anyone else. I mean, you look at Maple Ridge, a system that was installed, and then, at actually looking at it, that underwater storage area or underground storage area was not even actually opened up. So we've opened that up now. So now it's actually got water flowing into the caps, I suppose. So, which was required during construction. So silt doesn't fill up the space. So,
And I knew you would, but I just want to make.
Yeah.
So
that's where, the developer's longtime willingness to oversee and make sure that it meets what's required, I think would be continued here.
Just to be clear on the retention though, just one more time, I'm sorry. The way that you have, obviously it's retention, but if there is overflow designed to go back towards the west, towards Tamarack and that ditch that's there. Would
I
that
believe
be a
that
correct
that's the,
statement? Okay, that's, because we're talking about overflow, right? And so we're hoping that the way it's designed is to push back towards the west and go to that ditch.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear because there was a lot of talk. And what's the size of that ditch? That's the other question.
It's county ditch, so it's
Yeah.
just whatever.
Whatever, because
Whatever.
I've been out there. I know this, it just, it's gonna put a lot of water back in there at once if we do have, but it is pitched pretty hard back to the south. It's gonna flow.
yeah, it's gonna flow that way.
It is gonna flow once it makes.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So Scott, do you think, you mentioned start with the specific soil conditions. Do you think that needs to be evaluated and or sometimes soil testing done to determine the types of soil?
My concern is that this drainage design is heavily dependent upon the infiltration rate of the soil. So the eastern pond is fully relying on infiltration. The other pond is a secondary means of water release, is infiltration. If that doesn't hold, that's an assumption, which I think it's rooted in a good place. Following the web soil survey, but this was a pre-developed site, which I didn't know till today that it was pre-developed. But with that being said, there could be fill there that would have more clay compound to it that's going to hold water or not allow water to diffuse through it. That's a concern that I have when you heavily weight your discharge on infiltration, but you don't have specific site conditions. I have seen at other locations, where conditions aren't there, that sand be integrated into the pond bottoms to let that water get into it. I would assume up here being close to the lake, you've got pretty sandy soils anyway.
That feels back to the south muck and sand, but yeah, you can get,
But you can probably find a sand seam but if not, then your infiltration is virtually nothing. And now you've got runoff much higher rate than what you've anticipated or what you've assumed can happen.
So it's just soil sampling? Is there a technical term we can call that?
Just geotechnical investigation.
And with, just to ask a question here, right now, you stated that the current amount of runoff from the site is not next to zero, right?
That was what Hempel and Associates,
Okay,
that's what they
so the
calculated.
current infiltration rate is 100%.
And most of that's probably because it's a grass field right now. And now you're gonna pave 40+% of it. And that's what's
Yeah.
causing the large runoff.
Yeah, but the soils allow water to infiltrate as they do now. It's not got any standing water on it, nor has it had. And so there's no reason to believe that, I understand we're paving a large portion of it, but if the water runs through a large, 47% of it now, it should still accept water afterwards, correct?
Potentially.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to say that it would.
For sure, yeah, and I'm not.
I mean, the way the drainage counts are set up, when you change ground cover, that really affects what your infiltration rate is.
well, some of that 47% that, I'm more concerned with that retention pond. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's where you
right.
guys have designed it to go.
Yeah, and it
that
doesn't
vol-
sit there now. It doesn't, there's no water.
I'm
that
just
holds
wondering
there
what the
now.
volume capacity is.
Yeah,
Few weeks ago, we had rainfall of 4 inches in a few hours. Would that take care of that?
I think that's the question on the, your 2-3 hour rain event, that comes up.
Do we have it?
I don't know for certain
That's
if,
the retention.
if we have somebody that runs out there and takes, 4 samples in that area to identify any concern, if we can get going with the permit process and the agreement to have some type of soil samples done there, and continue to say either it shows us exactly what we need it to show us and that the perk rate is correct, or that something needs to be done, we'll continue to investigate that and make sure that it meets the requirements, to allow the water to dissipate at the required rate. And that could be done through, as you said, integrating sand. If it doesn't meet it, you can integrate sand into the base. We could put in some type of underground storage in the event of an overflow. But we could still get going on the foundation for that building that we have there all the way to the east. And continue to make sure to provide the board with assurances through the testing results that shows that the plan will work.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
My next question has to do with our utilities specifically. Do we have what it takes to put this in as far as water and sewer?
Not until the dunes is, that are, approved by the state.
The water is touching the parcel now. It's not a loop system, but it's there. The wastewater would have to be pumped. If the dunes doesn't happen, the wastewater would have to be pumped to the next street, Lincoln, manhole over here. They understand that, so hopefully,
Yeah.
if the dunes doesn't happen, then they're gonna have to pump the other direction.
And developer will be
That's our-
putting all that's on the developer to put in. And
Correct, yeah, what we've looked at is putting in a lift station or a pump station over towards the west side of the property. That once the dunes is finalized and water and sewer is extended down, we take that lift station out and just connect to the sewage line. So what we'll install to pump that will be what's required to finish off, so it'll only be installed once and hopefully just take the pump out and connect everything on. Is the intent. And there's no, and this is always a question with RVs and things, there's no grade storage or water storage from waste from the RVs where they'll be able to dump that. There's nowhere.
Yeah, 'cause that we can't accept, because that's,
Yeah.
now, one of these had an 8-inch main running through there. One of these drawings had an 8-inch water main going through there.
They show the existing water we're tying to on the east as being 6-inch main.
Correct. But one of the drawings I saw had an 8-inch main going through
Yeah,
that.
the new main will be all the 8-inch.
New main from where?
We're gonna tie to that 6-inch on the east.
Yep.
And run it all the way down West Shore Drive.
Yep.
And then north toward the dunes. That's our loop leg to loop the dunes north and south. So it's all looped.
Gotcha. But it wasn't going through the development.
It's in the right of way of the West Shore Drive. The main, it's main.
So they're gonna allow RVs to be washed there,
Yes, yeah.
and that drainage, soapy water and
Goes to the sanitary.
that drainage will be.
Yeah, so it'll be.
So it'll be allowing the soapy water to run just anywhere, different cleaning chemicals.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's all gonna be paved and pitched and stuff, but, for the most part, inside and at the edge of the garage and things, there's drains that would flow into the sanitary. But from the exterior, I don't know that there's anything that doesn't keep just sheet water from running, off into the stormwater area. But I don't think that we have any drains in the hard surface, do we, Tom?
No. I mean, all the drainage flows across the new hard surface.
Yeah.
There's no inlets or.
Storm drains or anything like that, that would collect anything.
And I didn't misstate, the new sanitary is gonna right away West Shore Drive. The water main's gonna be in a 20-foot easement.
Other questions? Anyone?
Yeah. Question. What is the setback from this building on the corner to West Shore?
25 feet
That's
to the right away, I believe it's a
That's a
20-foot setback.
corner that's used, most of the traffic goes that way.
That's within it meets the front yard 20-foot setback.
Yeah, the building's 25 feet from the right away on both sides.
And the entrance way is here, just one entrance way.
There's an
Yeah, wait
entrance
for it.
off of Tamarack and an entrance off of West Shore.
Oh, off of here.
And that's a 2-way all the way through.
Yes.
Just want to make sure that on that corner, there's enough room for
Right now.
traffic to, as it increases.
Is there anything else outstanding, Scott?
Just to add, if the dunes does not get built, that creates, I guess, shifting for you guys, because you've got water right there at Lincoln Street, right? And you've got a sewer connection, but everything, your plan changes because if the dunes doesn't happen, because this is being fed by everything on the
The
dune.
way I understood, they're gonna put this pump in no matter what, and then connect to the dunes after, and then remove the pumps. Isn't that what you just said, or is that,
Correct.
am I wrong?
No, that was our, to be able to get everything going here, it was the intent to put in everything that would necessarily be required to extend to the dunes in the event that it goes, but have a pump at that end point that pumps it back towards where it eventually would go if the dunes were to collect. And then once the dunes takes off and we get all the infrastructure down, take the pump out and connect everything on, so it's just a straight streamline.
So
So,
the idea would be to run a gravity 8-inch on West Shore to the northwest corner at Tamarack and West Shore, install a pump there, and then run a force main back to Lincoln Street. Is that
Correct.
accurate?
yes,
right,
Yes,
I assume just like a grinder pump station.
yeah.
The only other thing would be if the dunes doesn't happen, are you okay with an 8 tied onto a 6 right there for your water? If it would be just to extend the 6.
Second to 6.
Yeah, 6 to 6 as opposed to 6 to 8. I don't recall are you guys putting a hydrant on that corner?
There's already a hydrant there, isn't there?
Not on that corner. Well, there is on the Lincoln side.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
But are you gonna are you guys installing a hydrant on your new line?
We didn't have planned for that.
Okay. I don't think that it's necessary unless you want, if that dunes doesn't happen, now you've got a dead end if you want to flush the hydrant right there. So you can flush your dead end. Because that's probably what you use the one I'm looking for right now. It probably
is.
carries fire flow to an
It does.
extent, but you probably also use it as a flush point on your dead end. So you
I agree
probably
with
want
that.
to install one at West Shore and Tamarack as a flush hydrant.
Well, if the dunes happens, it's
That's what I'm
fine,
saying.
but if
Yes.
it doesn't, then we
Then
have
we
no
need to
place.
install,
Yeah.
yeah.
When the dunes does happen, you just hook on and we got.
Yeah, I have no issue with an 8-inch tie into that 6. Because I assume you're still looking to tie into a 10-inch north of the dunes, correct? Right by the water plant?
Yeah, Davis Street has a 10-inch.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have any issue with an 8 right there tying to your 6, but I wouldn't want a sole feed for that 8 to be a 6. That's probably a little bit overkill.
So you're saying just bring the 6 down and then go to 8?
Correct. That's what I would suggest at that point.
I misspoke on that fire. I thought I had a fire hydrant filling at that intersection at the end of that 8-inch one. And I'd have to check on that because I got a valve showing there. Anyway, if we put a hydrant there, I just usually take a 6-inch line.
And it's 6 inch minimum. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hate to run a 6-inch down there, tie in a 6-inch for the hydrant. I'd rather keep it at 8 across there and then go to the 6-inch hydrant.
The only issue is if you don't end up building the dunes, you're feeding a 6 with an 8 or a 6 to an 8, and there's no point. You
Yeah, it's
just go with the 6.
So that-
Correct.
No.
I mean, we're not talking very much in pipe cost, right? I mean, we're maybe $10 a foot, but it would introduce a lower pressure area because you're increasing your diameter. So I would run 6 all the way to the corner, just like we did on Academy.
And then take
Maintain
off
pressure.
Yes, maintain that pressure, and then more than likely that hydrant would not be used for fire anyway. They'd go back to the Lincoln hydrant or tie on either one. It should be fine, but it's not much there for fire flow. It's more for flushing and maintenance. It's just like what we're doing on Academy right now,
Mhm.
coming around to Fleet.
Where we installed the one.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kind of a little different subject. Are these buildings gonna be sprinkled? Fire protection?
Don't know if they have, I don't believe that they have to be. But if they, off the top of my head, I don't know, but if they do have to be, then they would be. But for some reason, I'm thinking that they don't have to be.
I don't know if they have to be, but
Yeah.
definitely curious about
That's an
that.
engineering question that I would leave to the designer and the engineer, not this engineer.
How many engineers
Yeah.
out there?
Well, we can get.
There you go.
The people who buy it may appreciate that with their high dollar units.
I was thinking that might be an added track.
But to add to
Because
that,
it's storage versus
if
use.
you do have
I
to
don't have
sprinkle
the
those
picture.
buildings, just that an assessment needs to be seen if there's enough water there to do that, to supply for stand and for sprinkling. A 6-inch line should be enough, but that would just have to be checked.
I could be wrong, but I'm almost certain it's not required to be, nor is it sprinkled.
Being this commercial, does it require a state inspection? Being this commercial,
Of the building design.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. That's, our designer is the one that sends everything down to state to receive approval prior to, and I'm almost certain that we received state approval on the foundation permit, so I'm thinking that it does.
I'm just thinking it under the sprinkler system, whether it does or doesn't. I just want to know
Stay with the.
if the state would let you know.
Yeah, oh yeah, they will, yeah. And they'll tell us what system it has to be.
Okay.
Anything else, Scott?
I don't
I
think,
know we had a long list, but I think,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think a
I-
lot of it's been,
yeah, I submitted back to Bob issues that we had and, with some recommendations. A lot of this, in my opinion, hinges on the dunes. I think if the dunes gets constructed, there's still questions there, but it makes this less eye-opening, if you will. You know, the biggest issue I see with this is stormwater, and it's just because of the site. I think Tom and his team have done quite a bit to try to get there. But there's some sites that are just very hard to develop, and this happens to be one of them.
But I think as far as we're concerned, as we get the approval on the foundation permit with the agreement that we'll go through and do some like four or five soil samplings there, and determine exactly what our existing perk rate is. And if any adjustments need to be made to make that as the excavation team kind of completes all that work.
so we just need samples where the ponds are gonna be, correct?
Yeah, well, that's I don't know, that's my thought.
I would, whoever you guys use as a geotechnical consultant, I would have them assess it and tell them what your plan is and get their recommendation.
It's been easy to get people to do soil work here. It's hard to find somebody to do just perk tests. They don't want to have somebody sit out there for 6 hours and just dump water in the hole. Yeah. I think we found one that'll do that. In fact, he's working on some of the dunes for us, trying to investigate where the muck smell starts and stop. Anyway, we can get that from them, but a lot of places that we've worked for, hard to find people do it.
Was a boring that shows what the consistency of the soil to verify the map from online? Would that provide some assurances to say,
The soil borings help a lot.
I think understanding with the soil type, if it's sand in that retention,
yeah?
I think it's safe,
No.
but I defer.
I would, my recommendation would be have somebody do an infiltration test. I mean, soil borings will tell you so much, but the infiltration test will give you an exact, hey, this is what we're dealing with.
And I'll contact the guy we were working with on the dunes for that. Schedule him to come down and do that.
What's the, just for reference, what's the cost of,
But he's doing that area at the dunes for about $1,000.
okay, so it's not cost prohibitive. I gotta go back and tell Alan, so having an idea. No big deal.
I wish I were back.
It's a paying sale, Bert. Come on.
I don't have any more questions. Does anybody have anyone in the room, questions, comments, concerns?
No. I appreciate everything that's been brought up there.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate it. It seems like it's been looked at
Yeah, it's
very,
been-
very thoroughly. Thank you, Scott, for the review.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm just gonna then have us move, go to our findings of facts here. And fill them out again. If you have a disagree, you're gonna ultimately need to vote no on approval. So the first, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The second question is the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including, it's not variance included in this permit. will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And the third question, the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan. Okay, a motion to approve building permit number BP 23 103280.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay. And the motion to approve building permit BP 23 103280 is approved.
Follow up with that. Providing information on what we find, if anything comes up, we can try to address what's on the fly. Helps have with the excavation team. Anything.
make sure you add that hydrant at the end too.
Hydrant is a great idea.
Okay, for this committee, any other member comments or concerns bring up? Other business at all? So,
Drive this for the people with one of these properties. They're on, I don't know if it was West Shore or South Main. There was a property there close to the lake. They had a bunch of huge stones right next to and almost, well, I think it was, some of them were touching the pavement. And these things were, like this big around and. Boy, short. But each other.
That's been brought up.
South,
that'd
South,
be a
South Street.
dangerous thing if somebody tried to pull off the, holy mackerel.
Yeah, that
I
has
looked
been.
at it, particularly in the winter time. You're driving along there over the snow plow, coming along there.
They're off the road a little bit.
Yeah,
They're not right on the road, but side.
but they're still, who put them there?
Seems like
Contractor,
they're
isn't it?
touching the road,
Yeah.
it looks like to me,
But I mean, they're on the right of way.
on the edge. I just.
They don't bother me.
No.
Not a bit.
So we talked about that and I've talked to Bob and Bob's also talked to the landscaper on that. If I recall.
No, I got a complaint about it and I went down there and saw it, but
Okay.
I have different thoughts than,
I just thought I'd bring it up.
I don't want to set a precedent where people can start decorating a right of way with big stones.
that's already been started.
I know. There needs to be a stop to it though.
They may offer some safety for the homeowner. Well, from somebody
Yeah.
off that corner.
As a follow-up question, real quick, on the rest of the building permits as we go through, for the, executive storage. Will we always have, which is fine, just, or is it now that we get through some of these foundational issues, do those kind of come through and then get approved at a meeting all the time, or?
So for everything in C or commercial districts.
Yeah.
Requires a TRC meeting.
Okay,
We'll have all the facts. Good news
Okay.
is you just add the buildings. We already have,
right, a lot of the.
all the groundwork is, this stuff is covered.
Each one will be quicker.
My advice.
Yeah.
To the team is to say, if we've got the designs and stuff, let's just put them all in, and get them all approved and start rolling at one time as opposed to they do it piecemeally, then we're gonna have 4 or 5 meetings, we gotta talk about the same thing. That's, your guys' time is more important than that if it's all.
And we're okay with that.
Yeah.
With us putting them all in at once and
Yes.
get them all taken care of, yeah.
It's just if we have to call another meeting, you probably like.
Well, yeah, I'd rather just get you guys.
Yeah.
I know you like to visit us, but we can
Yeah.
take you trucks up.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Here, we did have the timeline to get that permit to get started on it based upon our special exemption.
Right,
And so now we'll meet that requirement now.
right. I'm glad to see that.
Yes. And it won't have to mow, well, it'll be mowed, but it won't be what it is now. I think.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any questions, let me know.
Thanks for all your
Hey,
help.
no problem. No problem. So, it's on to you.
Oh, certainly.
When it's over, we're, well, you know, that's.
We still- Yeah, so we still.
Thank you.
So, that's our size. Yeah. So. I got it. I said, no. Thanks, Rick. What's that?
To
We're cool.
Basically,